Let's go! What time is it? Games on! Games on! It's gonna be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
And the Ohio State Buckeyes are the first national champions of the playoff era.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to football.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to Football, as we are going to be here recapping everything that happened in Week 11, including the game that just finished between the Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots. And we'll also be talking about the crazy week that was in college football. And we'll also preview the 3 Thanksgiving games that are happening at the end. At the end of the show, we'll preview the 3 Thanksgiving games that are happening on Thursday. We will not have a show on Thursday night. I want to respect the fact that, even though I work in the morning and we're apparently everybody's going to somebody else's house and they're going to be gone by the time I get off work, I'll be home alone again on Thanksgiving for I don't know how much, this has probably been the 3rd time in a row. We're doing our Thanksgiving on Black Friday instead because I'm off, but we want to respect the fact that, Randy and Gary, they're doing more family things, and, you guys are all doing family things. Who the hell's going to be listening to us on a Thursday night anyway, right? So we'll be doing our preview show for the rest of Week 12 and talk about those Thanksgiving games on Friday night, but let's focus on Week 11 and this whole show here. I am the host of Football to Football, of course, Mr. Sean Garmer, and with me today, Mr. Gary Vaughn.
Well, I hope as we talk, I don't have a whistle interrupt me while I try to talk, but we'll see. The referees are doing that, during the plays at the game, so.
Nice. And also Mr. Randy Isbell.
I would like to blow the whistle on the Jet season right now.
Oh, come on. They're still way in it.
They don't know that.
Well,
That's not how they're...
the Texans are also in it, fighting for their division. So
we'll get to it.
We shall get to it. But let's start, as we always do, with the game that pretty much just ended here. Monday Night Football. Buffalo Bills go on and lose again. They still have not won on Monday Night Football since 1999. And the Patriots are now 21-1 at home since 2013 as they win 20-13. A really tight game, as you'd expect in a divisional matchup. Tom Brady down to bare bones after a while, as did both Danny Amendola and Aaron Dobson go out during this game. But that didn't stop Danny Amendola from having a 117-yard performance. Tom Brady didn't have the greatest of nights, but James White helped out with some touchdowns, or a touchdown, a huge touchdown. The Buffalo Bills tried. They kept it close the whole way. But what did you see there, Andy?
I just saw a really close divisional battle. Your normal Rex Ryan versus New England game. Buffalo created a ton of pressure, forcing Tom to get rid of it a little faster than he wanted to. But the Patriots are who they are, and, they're going to find ways to win. And, they made the plays that Buffalo just were not able to do.
Let's talk about this weird, very, very weird, inadvertent whistle that gave the Patriots a 15-yard penalty on Rex Ryan for stepping on the white part of the out of bounds, and also costing them what could have been a touchdown, or at least a huge play by Danny Amendola, because they blew the whistle. is this ever going to be cleared up? Do you think we're going to eventually have a rule for this kind of thing in the off season now because this has come up? Or, I mean, what would you do in this case? I mean, do you think they did the right thing?
I'm going to be honest. I mean, Gary, you have to talk about it. This happened on my way home. So I heard about it when I got home, but I missed the actual play.
Yeah, you know what? And honestly, I missed it as well because, there was things going on in the house. And so I saw the replay, heard the whistle blow during the actual play itself. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big factor in tomorrow's news. And right now, as we talk about it, I think, for me personally, I think they will address it. I think they'll have to. But, as it stands, I mean, I still stand by the referee on this. I think that, with Rex Ryan being out there, he should definitely make sure he's back. And even if he made the referee inadvertently do that, I mean, it is what it is. But the refs felt like it was guilty for him to do that, so that's why they did it.
I mean, it does seem like the whistle blew before he makes the catch, or as he's making the catch, or something to that extent. So, I don't know. I mean, this is just one of those, it's a really hard call to make, honestly, I think. I think they tried to do with what they could. That's one of those that's not just totally in there, but, they had to do with what they had at that point. But, Buffalo, to me, I felt like the defense really pressured Tom Brady and made his life a problem. They forced an interception out of him that wasn't his fault. It was tipped. But they only sacked Brady once. They only really got to Brady one time where Brady didn't release the ball. And, I mean, he didn't have his best weapons out there, so that helped things. But do you think Buffalo should have could have done more, or is this more on the offense? Or where do you think Buffalo went wrong here?
I don't know if they really went wrong. I think it was just they were outmatched. They're outskilled and just outcoached. I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel like Buffalo played a pretty decent game. They just didn't quite have enough to beat New England. And Rex Ryan even says it in his post game. He's like, listen, the Patriots made the plays. That's what championship teams do. We're just not to that level yet. And that's how I feel the entire game went. Is they're just not quite to that New England level yet.
Yeah, I talk about this week in and week out. You got to face adversity and you got to overcome it. And it just seemed like, Tyrod Taylor, he got a little banged up in this game. He tried to stretch plays. He had a few things not go his way, but he was not able to overcome those difficulties where Tom Brady was, and he was able to still, even though, hey, Buffalo was, rushing him. They didn't sack him a lot. I thought they would get to him more than they did, but they did rush him. And he still was able to stay poised and stay, focused on what his objective was. Whereas the Tyrod Taylor, I think half the time was thinking, do I keep running or do I pass? Do I keep running or do I pass? And so,
and that's one thing too. They didn't let him run around and run for yards and yards. They were spying him. They were making it a problem for him to run. Anytime he would draw, they had somebody there. Ninkovich was basically his pest the whole game. We didn't hear from Sammy White, and that's another thing too. The offensive weapons were really killed in this game. Other than Amendola, Gronk only has 2 passes for 37 yards. Sammy Watkins, we don't hear from him until he makes that big catch, that one-handed grab or whatever at the end almost. It was really a defensive game, and as Randy said, the Patriots did with what they had, and they made the plays. James White scores the touchdown. James White makes the big play.
And you guys already pointed it out. Championship teams, they make the big plays. Even if it's tough sledding, they still make it happen. And I got this question, and Randy, maybe you can help me out on this. And I look at Tyrod Taylor. I really was in favor of him earlier this year. I thought he was doing an excellent job. He kind of overachieved. But now he's, after his injury, it seems like he's kind of slowed down. I don't know if people are figuring him out or if he's just facing really tough defenses. But right now, I'm just not sure I'm sold on Tyrod Taylor.
I think it's a little bit a mix of both. He's definitely played some tough defenses, and obviously their last 3 games have been against divisional opponents, which is always going to be tough. They're other than the Jets, they've played these teams already this year, so it's the second time against them, and teams will start figuring it out. Now there's tape out there about you, so that they can kind of see your tendencies and stuff. And I think with his injury, he's not as mobile and maybe scared to run a little bit. So I think it's just a little bit of both. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be a good quarterback in the league, but right now, he's got to now figure out how to overcome what teams have figured out about him.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I think that's one of the big factors in why this game ended up the way it was is quarterback level. And, of course, Tom Brady's at the top echelon.
Well, now looking ahead, Buffalo doesn't have the easiest schedule. They have, I think it's the Chiefs at Arrowhead next week, which, again, the Chiefs are in that mix. And, we'll talk about that game, but they pretty much obliterated the Chargers. And, now they're going to be going into a game at home that they feel like they can compete in. And we see another just defensive battle there where the Bills could come up empty again. And then they got the Texans again. Just another defensive team, and TJ Yates seems to be leading that team somewhere, at least positively. So, Buffalo doesn't have the greatest stretch of games here to rely on to, it's going to be a battle the whole way through for them. What do you think is Buffalo's chances here moving forward and staying in that hunt?
It's going to be tough for them. I think the 2 front runners right now to me to make that last playoff spot, because I like the Steelers to make the first wild card. But as far as that second wild card goes, I really think it comes down to Kansas City and Houston, which obviously you just said is Buffalo's next 2 games. Kansas City's red hot right now. Houston's defense is really getting them over the hump, and DeAndre Hopkins is just amazing. So I think the Bills and the Jets just have a lot to overcome to be in that one of those 2 wild card spots.
Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with Brandy. I feel like the Buffalo, they've got a tough schedule coming up, and if Tyrod Taylor is a little bit banged up and he's still having to deal with injuries, that doesn't help their team for sure because he's a big key part of this. So LaShawn McCoy has been great. He's definitely been worth the money that they gave him. Definitely been worth that, big trade. It's just one of those things where you look at him and say he's a superstar, but he can't do it alone. He's got to have Tyrod Taylor. That defense has got to be able to, do a little bit better than they've done. They're doing great. They've done some good things, but I still think that they're still breaking at times. And I think that's what's been the difference between them and these other teams that they've been playing lately. So, I think Buffalo is in the mix, but I think they're on the bottom portion of that mix.
The Patriots now become the second team that is 10-0 on the season, along with the Panthers. But the Patriots still have that pesky Sunday night game next week against the Broncos. Now, it won't be against Peyton Manning. He's already been ruled out. It will be against Brock Osweiler. Do you think that there's now less of a feeling of a loss there, that there might have been? Is it going to be less? Do you think it's more or less competitive for New England at all?
Well, at the level that, Peyton Manning has been playing, it may be about the same because he's been injured. And he just has not been the same guy this year. Let's admit it. He just has not. The strength has not been there. Randy just pointed it out, I believe it was last week or the week before, showing you his arm strength this year and compared to what he did exactly on the same play last year, and it was nowhere close. So, I'm looking at this as it's going to be pretty even, but at the same point, we've seen Denver be good, really good, and then of course at times we've seen them be kind of average with good players. So I think right now New England's just rolling, and it's going to be tough for Brock Osweiler to come and even though they play in Denver, don't they? Even though they've got them on their home field, I don't know. I'm still not sold that they're going to be able to be victorious.
What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high ask of Osweiler to fend off this Patriots defense that's been playing really well, on top of Tom Brady just doing what he does. I think the hype obviously is going to be a lot less now that it's not Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning, but knowing Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, they don't care who the quarterback is. They're going to prep just the same. As far as the competitiveness, I'm with Gary. I think it's about the same compared to what Peyton Manning looked like the last few weeks. I think Osweiler does just as good of a job, and he did the job against Chicago. So,
all right, I think we pretty much hit all the points there for that game. I think we can safely move on to the rest of what happened in Week 11, which there's some games that are total blowouts and some games that were sort of interesting down to the wire. So let's go ahead and start with the game of the week, which we thought was going to be much more competitive. I was doing the rival for this game. The Green Bay Packers against the Minnesota Vikings wound up being a 30-13 shellacking by the Green Bay Packers. They sacked Bridgewater 6 times. They were constantly making just being a pain in the butt to Bridgewater. Peterson fumbled. This is his 6th fumble on the year. He might be the leading rusher, but he fumbles a lot. The Vikings are also the least penalized team in the NFL. 8 penalties for 110 yards. That's not going to help anyone. Peterson only rushed for 45 yards. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the greatest day in the world, but he has no turnovers and 2 touchdowns. And Randall Cobb really made the Vikings offense have a lot of opportunities. I don't know how many. I think he had like 3 or 4 clear first down drops that, I don't know what's going on with him. But that's not the first time that's happened this year. James Jones also had that problem, but he came back with 109 yards and a touchdown. And, at least, and Eddie Lacy, that was the huge thing for this game, was Eddie Lacy was back to himself. He had 100 yards rushing. He looked good. He was mobile. James Starks wasn't that really much of a factor. It was because Eddie Lacy was really doing his thing. But it still should be noted that the Packers, in the passing game, haven't corrected any issues. They're still missing guys. And when Bridgewater wasn't being pressured, he was getting the ball to whoever he wanted. Whether it was Diggs, whether it was Peterson in the flat, whether it was Kyle Rudolph who had a huge game. They seemingly could not really stop Bridgewater unless they were pressuring him or sacking him. But they did enough. They did a lot to get to him, and it made it a pain in the butt for... and the Vikings defense was still getting a lot of stops on their end. I think it was more the fact that they were having to be on the field so long that, it made it difficult for eventually the Vikings defense to stop them all the time. But that being said, Gary, do you feel like, okay, that whole stuff about them being in free fall is over? The Packers are back now.
Are they back to what they were at the beginning of this season? I'm not sold that they are. I think that they've corrected a couple things to really get them back and being competitive. I think really what you saw this week with Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers was able to put his ego aside for a second and say, look, I can't just do whatever I want in the passing game. I'm used to throwing it up and guys catching it. Now that I'm throwing up, the guys aren't getting as open as they were. They're not doing exactly what I expect. He's checking the ball down a little bit more. He's making calls that are kind of a little bit more conservative than he likes. That's okay. I think that's what really helped him win this game. I really do. And him correcting that and, saying, hey, look, we just got to do what we got to do to win, even if it's not pretty. They figured that out a little bit here. And, of course, you got to give a credit to Eddie Lacy having a lot better game than he has. He definitely doesn't want to lose his starting job. You know that for a fact, though. He's making sure he's making a little noise. So are the Packers back? I would say it's a 50-50 on that. I think they're right in the middle of that.
Randy, are the Vikings just not as good as their record indicates, or was it something else here?
Well, I think definitely. I mean, when you look at Minnesota, you didn't see a 7-2 team. I don't think they were like upper echelon. Yeah, we all had them kind of as at number 5 just because they were this great story. But I think some of their flaws kind of showed. I mean, obviously Adrian Peterson again doesn't really show up a week after running for 200 yards. It just kind of seems to be his thing. And this game kind of just snowballed on him. It just was just one of those games for them where, you know, everything the Packers did seemed to work, and they just couldn't get into a groove, and they were the ones that made the mistakes and all the penalties, and it just kind of fell off. But if you're Minnesota, you know, now you're sitting there right there tied with Green Bay, and you gotta just shake this one off. You go to Atlanta next week, and you get Seattle and Arizona the weeks after that. So there's no rest for them. They got a really tough schedule the rest of the way. And, I mean, if they got to focus on making the playoffs now.
Is that how you feel too, Gary?
Yeah, I do too. You know, for me personally, I look at, you know, both these teams, and I think they're both really close. I think, you know, even when Minnesota goes to Green Bay, I mean, I think we could still see an upset. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I think that, you know, Minnesota's right there. But, I mean, I kind of understand where Randy's coming from on that.
All right, well, let's move on to one of the, you know, Gary, we finally got to see Tony Romo against the, you know, Miami Dolphins. And Tony Romo had a typical Tony Romo day. He had 2 touchdowns. He also had 2 interceptions. One of them was his fault. One of them, you know, whether it was Dez slipping or whatever, the field was wet. But, you know, we did see some of that Romo magic plenty of times, including on this first pass of the game where he throws a left-handed to McFadden, and he doesn't quite get the first down. But you knew it was going to be a different game there. Robert Turbin debuts, and he spells McFadden pretty well, 35 yards. Had some nice explosive runs. McFadden, 29 carries, 129 yards. So he's back to doing what he does. Terrence Williams, welcome back, sir. You are relevant again. 79 yards and that big touchdown for 31. But lots of penalties for these teams. 10 for the Cowboys on 79. Miami with 9 for 74. Undisciplined going on around for this both teams here. And the Cowboys defense does what they're supposed to do. Pick 6 for Rolando McClain all the way in. Touchdown. And they hold that crazy Miami's rushing attack between Lamar Miller and Ajayi to 57 yards. Dolphins also go 1 for 10 on 3rd down, and they sack Tannehill 3 times. Though it's a question mark the Cowboys are going to have to wonder about on Thursday. Byron Jones got blown up for both of those big play TDs by Kenny Stills and I think it was Landry on the other one. But, Randy, you know, the defense put the game on them. Is it the defense's fault in this case?
It's partially the defense's fault because they couldn't really get Dallas off the field. Dallas has the ball for almost 40 minutes. But to me, this is mostly on the play calling for Miami. Again, with Dallas holding the ball that long, you need to try to correct that and keep your defense off the field and get them rest. And for Lamar Miller, I mean, you're saying they held them to 57 yards between the 2 backs. I think it was the play calling that helped them to 57 yards. They only ran the ball 11 times between the 2. I mean, Lamar Miller was averaging 6 yards a carry. How does he only have 7 carries in this game? It just doesn't make any sense, especially when you go back and watch this game, Dallas kind of gets them going here in the 4th quarter. It's a close game, tied going into the 4th quarter, and then Dallas just outplays them because they have energy. Miami is completely gassed at this point because Dallas has been on the field the whole time. So I think this is play calling to be blamed here. Run the ball. You are Lamar Miller. All right, Ryan Tannehill is an okay quarterback, but your team is based around the running game, and you ran it 11 times with your 2 backs. I just don't get it.
Is that more on Dan Campbell or is this on the players when you can't convert on 3rd down, when you have this many penalties? Who's that on? Randy?
I think it's on Dan Campbell. I mean, because again, if you are running the ball on first down and getting yards and you have a decent second down play, and if that doesn't work, then you should have third and short. They weren't doing that. They kept putting themselves in third and long and putting them in tough situations that team is not built around to accomplish. That just was a terrible game plan all around. I mean, full credit to Dallas. They won this game. But just offensively, I was really confused by what Miami was doing from what I got to see from this game.
Well, Gary, I mean, we don't have too many games to choose from here, but is this the most complete game the Cowboys have played all year? You got everything. I mean, we didn't see special teams that much other than making sure Jarvis Landry didn't go anywhere, but everything else was on point here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a quick note, I totally agree with Randy on the running thing. Lamar Miller should have had more carries at least. That's just, to me, that was bad play calling. But yeah, Dallas, when it comes to the most complete game, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, you really only have 3 games you can choose from because those are the ones that Romo played. The rest of those games were, you can't even say a complete game for them. The Cowboys just were failures. I'm going to go with this one, and I would choose the Giants. I was going to choose the first game that they played against the Giants, but I'm not. And the reason is because I feel like that defensive touchdown is something that this team needed. They needed turnovers, and they were actually able to get them here. And then, of course, on offense, I mean, they were able to get the ball out to their wide receivers. McFadden, Turbin both did good jobs on the day running the ball. So, yeah, I feel like of the ones we have, it's the most complete. Is it pretty and perfect? Not really, but it's what the Dallas Cowboys have had to choose from.
Right, it wasn't perfect. You know, Romo still had his issues, you know, coming back with the rust and all that and having to deal with a wet field. It was raining. It was pouring rain at the beginning of the game. And it was just, you know, McFadden being able to run the clock out like he did at the end really helped. I mean, the Dolphins couldn't get them off the field. They couldn't, you know, stop them from running when it mattered to try to get, you know, because they were only down 10. I mean, it's not like they were down like 30 points at that point. They didn't have to do a whole lot to try to get back in the game. So to me, you know, I see it as just you get the defensive touchdown. They're holding, you know, they got Dan Campbell into thinking that he didn't need to run the ball anymore because it wasn't going to work, even though he really should have kept doing that. I mean, they sacked Tannehill. Romo got Williams back involved in the things. He looked like the Williams we're used to seeing. Cole Beasley dropped a touchdown, or, you know, we're talking about 4 points on the board there too. So, you know, I like the fact that we're seeing more of the guys get involved. You know, we saw Gavin Escobar show up again to make the blank plays. I just think, you know, so much of this, you know, it was noted in the telecast too that Romo makes a huge difference. Let's see how much of a difference he makes when we talk about previewing that Thursday game later on here. But let's, you know, move on. The Cowboys did beat a bad team in the Dolphins anyway. So we're going to move on to 2 bad teams playing each other here for Randy having to watch it.
Yeah, let's talk about St. Louis and Baltimore, and just possibly the worst game I've had to sit through this season for this podcast, and it nearly made me just not want to watch football the rest of the day. Listen, this game would be perfect for you to fall asleep to if you are able to sleep through a whistle. Because Gary brought up earlier about the amount of whistles that we've been hearing this year. None more, I think, than this game. Officially, there were 16 combined penalties for 172 yards. But if you go back and watch the game, I swear there was 40 of them called. But most of the times it would be, okay, there were 4 penalties on this play. 2 on each team. They're offsetting, so they don't count. And then 3 plays later, there were 2 penalties on this play. And it was neither team showed any kind of discipline, a lot of unsportsmanlike conduct. It was really chippy. It was just, I mean, it kind of had to be because there was no offense to it. Both Joe Flacco and Case Keenum do not look that great. The running games are kind of there. Todd Gurley gets shut down. Justin Forsett was looking really good, and then breaks his arm. You have 6 combined turnovers. The Rams fumble the ball 4 times. It even comes down to the end, tied 13-all with just a couple minutes left, and both kickers end up missing a field goal that would give their team the lead. And then you have Case Keenum on that last drive. First down, gets drilled. Looks completely knocked out. His offensive lineman is attempting to help him up and is unsuccessful for a little bit. Yet somehow nobody on the officiating crew, even though they're supposed to have people watching for this stuff, thinks that anything is wrong. They allow him to stay in the game. He throws an incompletion on the second down, and then on third down is hit from behind and fumbles the ball, which sets up a game-winning field goal for Baltimore, and they get the win. But Sean, how in the world is Keenum allowed to stay in the game after he's basically dragged to his feet?
I don't know. I think everybody just had one of those brain fart moments. I cannot imagine. I've watched that play now about like 2 or 3 times, and he gets absolutely whacked. Like you can see his head bounce. And you can see that he got hit pretty good there. And I don't know if it's because it's the end of the game, they're trying to hurry, and they don't want to do the whole quarterback change. I don't know if Jeff Fisher had anything to do with that or whatever, that he's trying to keep Keenum in the game at that point. But it just, I don't know. I have no idea. That's just... I'm glad that I'm glad the NFL is making this a big deal, that they're having a conference call with all 32 trainers and all this kind of stuff, because this is serious. You can't do that in games.
Yeah, he looked completely loopy and just bad situation. Speaking of injuries, Baltimore had their share. I already brought up Justin Forsett breaking his arm. Joe Flacco was announced after the game that he has torn ligaments in his knee, and he is out for the season. So enter Matt Schaub into Baltimore because, that situation couldn't get any worse. So even though Baltimore wins the game, to me, they lose the season, even though I think the season was already lost. But Gary, which injury is more significant, Joe Flacco or Justin Forsett?
I think for sure Flacco. Schaub is not the quarterback that you really want leading your team to try to be successful. Let's be honest. He just did not do a whole lot with Houston. They tried to get him going. He never could make any attempts to be anything great. I don't imagine he's going to do anything great here in Baltimore. You never know. I mean, I could be shocked and surprised tomorrow, but we'll have to see. I think Flacco is the biggest key here. We all seen it. This league is determined by quarterback play, what the quarterback can do. You can find running backs pretty much all day, but good quarterbacks are hard to find.
Yeah, and speaking of, and I'm sure you'll talk about him a little bit later, but Javarius Allen does come in, 22 carries, 67 yards, looked pretty good in replacement of Forsett, so I think they'll be okay there. And actually, speaking of penalties and all that, my buddy Robert had just texted me right before we got to this game that the Baltimore Ravens have 78 penalties this year for a combined 751 yards. Just not good.
Oof.
That's terrible. Well, I mean, we move on from that atrocity of a game to, another one, really. This wasn't that much better, honestly. The Oakland Raiders, it was just a really boring game. It was 9-0. Lions at the end of the first half, Eric Ebron dropped a touchdown, or that would have been a touchdown instead. The Lions actually got their running game back a little bit as Joique Bell and Amir Abdullah combined for 89 yards rushing. Matt Stafford actually was able to run quite a few times. He was able to run for like a 17-yard gain, and then he ran it in for the touchdown on that same drive, like a play later. And that pretty much sealed things for the Lions, as the Raiders just, my God, they did themselves in, honestly. Calvin, lots of dumb mistakes. Absolutely dumb. Just, how do you have 2 delay of game penalties? And just, how do you have delay of game penalties at all? Like, you have to know what time it is on the play clock. Like, you have to know you've got to snap the ball right now. Just like Carr got really lucky, his interception got called back due to defensive holding, or he would have had that. There was at the end of the game, when you need to score a field goal to tie the game, you not only do you hold outside of the end zone, you hold in the end zone and cause your team a safety. Like, how stupid are you? Just dumb. The Raiders are going to go 4 for 11 on third down. Amari Cooper has the worst game of his career, his short career. 1 catch of 4 yards the entire game. He also dropped 2 balls that would have been first downs. But, you know, that was just the way this game was. He couldn't do anything. Crabtree was like the only guy catching balls, and even then he dropped the pass that would have been a first down. They couldn't run the ball either. The Raiders they sacked Stafford 4 times. But they couldn't stop him. They had 7 minutes left in the game to get 1 stop to get the ball back. They couldn't stop him. So, you know, I don't know. It was a whole team effort. They were not on it for this game. But Randy, is it safe to say now, you know, having a few games, the offensive coordinator change has worked out for the Lions?
I mean, it worked out kinda. I mean, I still don't think with as much talent as they have on that offense, they should be scoring well over 20 points a game, and they're still not there. Yes, they've won their last 2 games. So you can go, oh yeah, the change worked, but I don't think it really has. I like that they're spreading the ball out a little bit more. We've seen Golden Tate kind of reemerge lately. It looks like Stafford is being a little bit more mobile, like you said, but I wouldn't give too much credit on the change. I still see a lot more change coming there in Detroit.
Well, Gary, on the other side, you know, is this going to be one of those games, let's say Oakland, you know, who's still technically in that fight for the wild card there in the AFC, is this going to be one of those games Oakland looks back and say, we should have had this one?
Oh, I definitely do. I think that this is one that they felt like that they could have came in and won. You look at the rest of their schedule here. I mean, they do play Tennessee, who, you know, has kept it close with a lot of teams. They have to play Kansas City twice, actually, especially here at the end of the season. And they got Green Bay on this schedule as well, so that is not easy. Denver, too. I can't forget about Denver. So they've got some tough matchups coming up. And so, you know, what if they were able to actually win a few of those tough matchups, but, you know, miss out on a wild card spot because, you know, this game, it could be definitely one of those situations. So you do have to feel like that.
And if you're going for, you know, when Jack Del Rio was in the press conference, he says, we're just all out of sync today. Like, you're going, this is crunch time. Like, you cannot have games where you're out of sync. Like, isn't this Jack Del Rio's? You're the coach. Isn't this your job to make sure your players are in sync then?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to do what you're paid to do, and that's lead this team. Make sure they're focused. I mean, you can't control everything, but I mean, you should know the pulse of your team. You should know what they're doing. Are they having a good week of practice? Are they not? Is guys slouching around? Are they taking this too lightly? Those kind of things you've got to pay attention to. So that's not. I mean, yeah, they may have not played well, but I think out of sync's not the right phrasing. I mean, if that's the case, if they're just out of sync, he needs to go ahead and motivate his team. Go buy an NSYNC album and play it all week.
Jesus. But no, I mean, that's the thing about the NFL this year, and it's not just Oakland. I mean, you take out a handful of teams, you know, those elite teams that we'll talk about later in our top 5, and every team is out of sync at times. It's like, that's why I think it's so difficult to predict games and how we have such surprising results. Well, what we think is surprising is because we can't get a handle on the teams because they don't have a handle on themselves. It's like one team, they'll look like a Super Bowl contender, and then the next week they look like they should be going for the number 1 pick. And that's like 20 teams in this league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, this was a case of a week where like almost every team you thought was going to win, they don't. You know, or every team that, you know, should be competitive, they don't either. It's just crazy. But, you know, we already talked about our Cowboys. Luckily, you know, we finally got a win. The Jets have been doing better during the season, but they didn't do so well in this game. Randy, what happened here?
I don't know. I watched NASCAR race instead. And I'm sad to see Jeff Gordon go, and congrats to Kyle Busch. And okay, go ahead and talk about Kansas City and San Diego. That's not going to work?
No,
okay.
Not this time.
Darn it. The Jets have decided to go back to the Jets of old. The running game wasn't there. The passing game was completely out of sync. Oh, surprise, out of sync again. I do like that they only gave the ball to Chris Ivory 8 times, give him a little bit of a rest because he's still banged up. I still think they need to just sit him for a week and see if he can get healthy. So the offense was just completely out of sorts. And listen, TJ Yates did not look good. I don't think he now needs to become the starter in Houston. But he did his job. He made no mistakes, and he learned how to throw it to DeAndre Hopkins, which is all you have to do on that team. And Hopkins definitely made Darrelle Revis look old. I mean, he only has 5 catches, but for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, he should have had 12. Every time he was one-on-one with Revis, it just seemed like he would get a 5-yard head start. Revis could not keep up with him, and it was tough to see. Revis does leave the game with a concussion, but other than that, it's just another one of those sloppy, ugly games that the Jets play and attempt to win. They don't win this one. They keep themselves just out of reach, really, and Ryan Fitzpatrick can't find a way to get them that extra touchdown to tie it up. But the Jets are really just throwing this stuff away. The defense is still playing pretty well, showing its age at times, but it's the offense that just, like the Raiders, are just missing something. They just can't get into enough rhythm. Brandon Marshall did the best he could not to completely explode after the game. His press conference or his interview after the game was basically go to say something really mad, stop for 10, 15 seconds. Well, we got to just fix something. And then you go to say something else and then wait 10 seconds and then, just go through the book of, well, we'll get him next week. Go through the cliche book instead of saying what he really wanted. So the Jets right now are a mess. So, Gary, I just got to ask you, is it time for me to give up hope, or am I just being that downer Jets fan?
You know what? We all get there as fans, and we all start to panic and think, okay, our team's gone. And, I definitely have dealt with this myself. But looking at the rest of the schedule for the Jets, I mean, I think there's a lot of positive things here. I think Miami right now is not a settled team. So even if the Jets are having their own issues, I'm not sold that they can't go in there and, of course, Miami comes to their house, so that's even better. So you got a game there, and I think even, playing the Giants, I still feel like the Giants aren't a perfect team as well. So you've got 2 teams right there coming up that I feel like you could beat, and Tennessee's not as right after that. I'm looking at the schedule right now, and honestly, I feel like there's one game on this that may be difficult for them to win, and that's New England. And maybe Buffalo at the most. I think the rest of these teams they could beat. And so I would not give up just yet. If they prove to you next week that they're going to act the same way, then I start to worry.
Yeah, absolutely. On the other side, Sean, Houston's won the last 3. They've won 4 of the last 5. Hoyer did pass his concussion protocol, so he'll probably be back in the starting role next week against New Orleans. Their defense is playing extremely strong. Like I said, Hopkins is looking like one of the top receivers in the league. And with the Colts, struggling a little bit still, do you think the Texans might be the favorites now in the AFC South?
I don't know, because Hoyer is so up and down. Their quarterback situation is not solid. That's a very big, important part. The defense really was what won. TJ Yates figured out how to throw it to DeAndre Hopkins in the Bengals game too, but the defense what won in that game. And I think at some point you're going to run into a team where the defense is not going to be able to really hold that offense. And they still play the Patriots. I mean, they're going to be playing some of these, AFC East teams, and they've got some division games still on their schedule too on their part, and it's not going to be simple. I think I still look at the Colts, even with Matt Hasselbeck. They have the opposite. They have an offense that can do things, and I don't know. I don't know if anybody's a favorite still. It's just until I see the Colts start losing games with Hasselbeck, I can't say that they're a favorite. But yeah, so I mean, we talk about a team that Randy had as favorites for in the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs go on and take their divisional opponent and rip them to shreds. They were pressuring Phillip Rivers for most of the game. Of course, Phillip Rivers at this point has no one to throw to. Antonio Gates didn't catch a pass until 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That should tell you how effective Phillip Rivers was in this entire game. 178 yards, and he throws a pick six. Kansas City wins 33-3. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to get out of this game other than the Chiefs just dominated. They held their. I mean, Melvin Gordon was still bad. Danny Woodhead only got 7 yards rushing. I mean, when Dontari Poe scores a touchdown on 4th and 1 at the goal line, I think you pretty much know where your team is at this point. Even Sharkondrick West leaves the game with an injury, and Spencer Ware gets 96 yards rushing on 11 carries. I mean, the Chargers' defense is bad. Phillip Rivers cannot do this by himself. The Chiefs just ran into a really bad and banged-up team. But, Randy, I mean, this is the team that you said was getting the Super Bowl. Do they look the best out of all those teams that are fighting for that second wild card right now?
Right now, absolutely. They've really turned it around since I kind of turned my back on them. I really thought that losing Jamal Charles...
What you need to do. You need to just keep turning your back on them.
I guess. But it was... I honestly, I thought losing Jamal Charles was going to spell the end for this team. Listen, they lost 5 games early in the season against some really tough opponents, and they kept all of them close. So I still really like them, but losing Jamal Charles I thought was going to be the nail in the coffin, and they've completely shown that it doesn't matter who's running the ball for them. They make it work. Like you said, West goes down, and they just plug in another guy, and off he goes. Spencer Ware looked great. So out of those teams that are fighting for the wild card, I definitely think they're the best. They might even be better than Pittsburgh. So they're getting hot at the right time, and who knows? Maybe my prediction turns out to be right after all.
Well, Gary, the Chargers, should they just be trying to go for the number 1 pick right now?
It's funny you say that because, I've said this about teams, when they get to that, 8th loss, hey, go ahead and start getting ready for the future. And I still think, to an extent that's true, but I don't think with any situation like this, you just play for the number 1 spot. You've got to at least have some momentum going. If you can get it going into the end of your season, even if you are 8 or 9 losses in, just because you don't want the next season to start out, hey, we lost this many games straight at the end. You want to go into the offseason saying, hey, we fought hard till the very end. Next year we're going to do better. So, no, I don't think you really need to play for number 1. But if you end up that way, you end up that way.
All right, fair enough. I mean, I don't know. I think you do. You want to have some kind of pieces around Phillip Rivers. He is getting up there in age. I mean, yeah, a lot of quarterbacks play to their 40 now, but the way Phillip Rivers is getting banged up, you might want to make sure you have some people in the tank there.
Well, look at their schedule coming up. You'll notice that they're probably going to be in the hunt for a quarterback, and they'll probably get a pretty good one in the draft.
Fair enough there, Gary. So, we go on to another game that wasn't very close at all. The San Francisco 49ers taking on their division rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, Randy. Is this another just Seahawks beating the 49ers? Yeah,
and this just adds to my wonderful football weekend. The Jets look like crap, and Seattle starts looking like they used to. And to me, it's because of their opponent and maybe a little bit of them, finally starting to turn things around. But the overaction I got at work later that night was just mind-numbing. But no, listen, they played extremely well. Russell Wilson is starting to find a groove. Him and Tyler Lockett are definitely starting to connect. no Marshawn Lynch in this game, but it doesn't really matter because Thomas Rawls just looks absolutely amazing. Carries the ball 30 times for 209 yards and gets a touchdown. Adds 3 catches for 46 yards and another touchdown. Russell Wilson throws the ball 29 times, only gets 5 incompletions. So, I mean, complete domination by Seattle. I mean, yeah, they kind of let San Francisco stay within striking distance a little bit scoreboard-wise, but, you know, watching this game, you never felt like San Francisco was really in this game. Blaine Gabbert, you know, continues to do fine, but nothing that's impressive, which is like half of the quarterbacks in this league anymore. So we'll just start right there, Gary. With all these teams looking for quarterbacks in the draft, you just brought up one with San Diego. Does Blaine Gabbert start for the 49ers next season, or do you think they start a rookie quarterback?
You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they did try to find them a new quarterback. I don't think that they feel Gabbert's their future. I think they wanted to see what they had in Gabbert. I think it depends really heavily on the coaching staff that's in place. Is it going to be this coaching staff, or are they going to reboot and try to find a new coaching staff? So I think that's going to be a big key in it. But I really feel like if they're in the draft, they see a good quarterback that they really feel like can be their next franchise guy. I think they'll go that way. And I think that Gabbert won't be in play.
And Sean, on the other side with Seattle, you know, they have that tough game against Arizona where they lose it near the end and then come out and just, like I said, blow out San Francisco. So is this the kind of Seattle's back, or do you think the blowout's just because they were playing the 49ers at home? Do they look this good against Pittsburgh next week?
No, I don't think so. I think Pittsburgh defense is good enough to match their offense. They're going to make Russell Wilson go back to the Russell Wilson where he's running around trying to figure out what to do. Marshawn Lynch is going to have to have sports hernia surgery, so he's going to be out at least until the rest of the season now. So they're going to have to rely on Rawls, and they won't have the combo of Rawls and Lynch. I think, you know, that's going to be Steelers' defense is the 49ers. I mean, their defense is okay. They can. What's weird is their biggest strength has been actually trying to get to the quarterback a lot of times. We saw it in some games, but you know, I think the Seahawks just know how to play them. Blaine Gabbert is not the quarterback you want if you're trying to, you know, actually go somewhere. I mean, maybe he plays mistake free. That's great and all, but to try to beat a team like Seattle, it's just not gonna. It's not. You're not gonna do. I think wait until we get to that Steelers game. Let's see if they play as well, which I don't think they do. But yeah, I mean, so again, we're continuing down this streak of games, and we'll have 2 more of these that were just complete and utter blowouts. So we're gonna talk about another one here. Of course, this made Gary and I very happy because it's the Washington Redskins getting blown out. But you know, we got to stay objective, and honestly, this is one of the most weird calls I've seen, and it really, really hurt the Redskins. And I don't know if you guys saw this. It happened in like the middle of the second quarter. The game was 14-14. Carolina had just scored. Andre Roberts goes and runs a kick return back for a touchdown for 99 yards. Okay. And the Panthers are on this drive. Greg Olsen catches the ball. He gets hit. It kind of looks like he might have been shoved in the, like, not the neck area, but like right directly under where the neck area is. Like in his chest, close to the shoulders. He gets pushed by Culliver after he catches the ball. So technically he's trying to tackle him. Olsen fumbles. It goes into Culliver's hands, and Culliver runs it back all the way for a touchdown. 21-14 Redskins. Well, the referees call, they say it's a personal foul. And then Carolina scores, and right after that, all the problems start happening. Strip sacks. 2 strip sacks on Cousins where he loses the ball. They strip tackle Matt Jones, strip tackle Jordan Reed. They turn this all into 20 points off turnovers. The Panthers defense also sacked Cousins 3 other times that were not strip sacks. They held the running game to a total of 14 yards. Absolutely horrendous. 14 yards. And you know what? Matt Jones and Alfred Morris, big goose egg on the board. 0. Just absolutely terrible for that Washington. They couldn't get anything going. Cam Newton throws 5. Of course, a lot of the Panthers' field position was like Redskins 25-yard line, Redskins 10-yard line, Redskins like 14-yard line. I mean, how are you not going to score touchdowns when you're at that part of the field all the time? Cam Newton throws 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers. Jonathan Stewart goes over 100 yards on the day. I mean, Panthers just demolished them. But, Randy, where should Cam Newton be in the MVP race after this?
To me, he's the very top of this list. Going into this year where we kind of just wrote them off because of all the injuries and, losing Kelvin Benjamin, and we just thought he's going to have no weapons to go to and the offense is going to struggle. And for him to be able to do what he's been doing, yes, a lot of the points being scored this week was because of the defense and the field position and stuff. But, he got the job done. He did exactly what he needed to do. He got the touchdowns. Like you said, he threw it to 5 different guys. We didn't think they had 5 different receivers on that team. So he is making the best out of a really crappy situation injury-wise and has turned this team into one of the best in the league. So to me, he is the top of the MVP race right now.
Well, Gary, on the other end, for Washington, how do you take this game? It's just, it seemed like this is what they were doing in the press conferences. Just, hey, nobody's coming to Carolina and won, It's when we're playing the best team in the NFC, like, no big deal. Let's move on to the Giants. Is that the way they should see it, or should this hurt them at all, that they played this badly?
No, I mean, I think that they should take into consideration the things that happened in the game, what they did wrong, but also, like they said themselves, they play the top team in the NFC. These games are not easy to win, and they had made some mistakes that caused them to get in this giant hole they couldn't crawl out of. So should they just sit and get depressed about this? No. I mean, you've got to get past it. Athletes have to do this on a normal basis. You don't perform well, you've got to forget about it and move on. And I think that the Redskins have to. Was this game important? Yeah, every game is important. So, I mean, they've got to hurt, but they got to hurt on a short term and move on and get to that Giants game, because if they look at what they've done in the past and some of the successes they've had, they know they can beat the Giants. I think that they feel more confident this week, even though they did have such a big loss.
Well, we move on to another team in the NFC East that got completely whacked. The Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, here comes Randy talking about how Mark Sanchez is all this, he's just as good as Sam Bradford or whatever. And look what he does in this game. Absolutely horrendous. So, Randy, what else happened here?
Yeah, listen, he wasn't that great, but it wasn't on Mark Sanchez. This is on the defense of Philadelphia. Listen, Doug Martin runs the ball 27 times, 235 yards. Most of those 235 yards came on like 4 different runs where it looks like the hole's going to close up, but the Eagles showed no effort, it seemed like, and he would just burst through the hole, and then off he would go, and then, because he's not that fast, they would finally catch him 60, 70 yards down the field. So it's like every time it looked like the Eagles might finally stop Tampa Bay, they would give up a huge play. Sanchez does not do great. Both of the touchdowns he does throw, it was more because his receiver makes a great run out of it. Both Josh Huff and Darren Sproles really did most of that work, with yards after the catch. He does throw 3 interceptions. One was returned for a touchdown, but that was near the end of the game, and one of his interceptions was right at the end of the half when they were trying to get down to at least field goal range. So just kind of pressing there, which, like I said, he's going to make mistakes. But to me, I mean, this game, Tampa Bay just jumped on him early and never let up. Jameis Winston ties a rookie record with 5 touchdowns. He throws for 246 yards and has really turned this team around. So, Gary, I got to ask you, I mean, we've been all on the Todd Gurley bandwagon. I mean, I've named St. Louis's team after him. But is Jameis Winston now the leader for Rookie of the Year?
Man, it's a close race. I'm still leaning towards Gurley a little bit here, but Winston is making a case for himself. He's gotten better. I think if it continues on the track he's got going now over the last 2 to 3 games, I think we can definitely consider him in that range of being the top rookie this year. But I got to see a little bit more. I think I'm excited about seeing what he has accomplished, but I got to see more.
And I will say, we brought it up with Cam Newton throwing 5 touchdowns to 5 different guys. Jameis Winston also 5 touchdowns, 5 different receivers. So it's something to be said for him as well. The Eagles completely implode on themselves. A lot of bickering after the game about effort and Chip Kelly's leadership coming up to question. So Sean, have the Eagles just given up on Chip Kelly, do you think?
I don't know, but this is getting into that scary territory where Chip Kelly might have to start wondering what's going on with his team, and I think Thursday will tell you all you need to know, because the Lions are perhaps they're an offense that if they can get going, they're not going to be nobody thought Tampa Bay was going to do this. Amir Abdullah's fast. Drake Bell can run. If they don't actually show some effort in that game, that's where I think you'll see that they have completely gone on Chip Kelly. I think you're allowed to have one of these anomaly games where you're just getting whooped. Let's see what happens on Thursday. And the thing is, you're still in it in the division, so they shouldn't be giving up on Chip Kelly, regardless.
Yeah, and if Detroit wins, I wish I could be at that game, because if Detroit is victorious, I would love to walk up to Chip Kelly, tap him on the shoulder, and say, "Hey, it's okay," and hand him an LSU hat. And say, "Hey, there's your new job."
Okay. Good enough. I mean, I don't know if I'm LSU. I don't think I want to match that. But let's see. Let's move on to another quarterback. Brock Osweiler taking on the Chicago Bears. Now, let's be fair. Chicago Bears defense isn't that great, but Brock Osweiler throws a touchdown on the first drive of the game, a 10-yard pass that winds up being a 38-yard run and touchdown for Demaryius Thomas. And the second one in the fourth quarter, the Cody Latimer, that pretty much kind of put the game, it put the game up to that 17 score. He didn't throw it deep. The one time he did, he overthrew his man. He did make good throws. The ball was actually getting to the receivers, which is, something that Peyton Manning wasn't doing. But he didn't do anything you don't see Peyton Manning do. So right now, I wouldn't say he is head and shoulders above and beyond way better than Peyton Manning. I think we need to see him a little bit more than that. He was throwing it to Vernon Davis, though. So he was happy to get 69 yards on those catches. The tight ends, I think, combined for like 137 yards of the yardage. I mean, it also helped. What helped Osweiler a lot, which is what's been hurting sometimes in Peyton Manning's case, is the whole team played well around him. Hillman got 102 yards rushing. C.J. Anderson got 59 yards rushing. As I mentioned already, the tight ends. The defense limits Jeremy Langford and Kadeem Carey. Carey actually had to go out in the third quarter with a concussion to 61 yards rushing. They forced Cutler to fumble the ball and to throw an interception. So, that fumble was really costly. It was on the second to last drive. The Bears actually sacked Osweiler 5 times. So it's not like that offensive line was being nicer to Osweiler than they were to Peyton Manning at all. But he just didn't throw any turnover. He didn't throw any interceptions, so that helped Osweiler. Mistake-free football really helps those backups. Marquise Wilson was a big thing for this game. As no Alshon Jeffrey, he got 4 catches, 102 yards. He's able to find spaces behind that defense. So, shows the Broncos can be had a little bit if they're not paying attention. But there's 2 situations in this game where John Fox may or may not have made the right decision there. So you have plenty of time left. You have about 6 minutes or so left. Should the Bears have kicked that field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 4 from the goal line? It was a 4th and goal on the 4. And for that 2-point conversion, you just ran it in for a touchdown. Do you run it again? Like, shouldn't you have tried to pass at least? I just think you put yourself into one situation when you run. You give yourself more options when you pass.
Well, I think as far as the first one goes, it's a little early for them to go for it there. It's a little desperate. Like you said, there was plenty of time, and obviously they got down and scored again. So it was a little desperate for them to go for it on fourth down when a field goal gets them, a touchdown wins it now. You don't have to worry about the 2-point conversion. But obviously, if they score a touchdown there, maybe we're not even talking about it. But to me, running it on a 2-point conversion, that doesn't bug me. I mean, you're 2 yards out, just battle it out. Yes, passing it gives you more options, but I think, John Fox decided, listen, we're going to pound this in. If we get it, we get it. If not, we don't deserve it. So he went all in on the run, and it didn't work out.
Gary, what do you think? I mean, the running game was not doing that well in this game. I mean,
yeah,
Randy or.
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit more equated to just take the points, just take the 3. You got 6 minutes left. You're assuming that your defense can hold the Broncos. Maybe you can, try to, maybe take some risks, and when you play Osweiler, you can probably blitz him in different ways and hopefully become successful and get the ball back. I just think you got to take points. But when it comes down to those 2-point conversions, they're at the 2-yard line, and if your team is not geared towards, punching them in very well, especially in this game, you could tell Chicago wasn't. I definitely have to go for the pass. I just feel that way. I think, it to me, it equates to a better ratio of success.
Gary, I have another question. I mean, obviously Brock Osweiler, we already know the answer, so I don't have to ask you that question. But I guess I can ask both of you the question of the Bears. Now, the problem with losing to the Broncos, you want to have any shot at doing anything. It's a must-win now at Lambeau in Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, that's a tall task, but yeah, you've definitely got to go in there and do everything you can to win. But man, that's a tall task to ask for them.
I think really for them to really feel like they could do anything, they really needed to win anyways. Now being 4-6 and 13th in the conference, yes, I mean they still have a chance. They could run the table and go 10-6. So this would make this a must-win, but I just don't see it from Chicago, but they're definitely going to go into their game on Thursday night going, we have to win this game. So definitely look for them to pull all the stops. I think they kept Alshon Jeffrey out here so he could play Thursday. I think the same thing goes for Matt Forte. I think both of them play on Thursday, so look for a different Chicago team there. And also, I mean, just with that, it's just they had nobody in this game. I mean, they held everybody out, it seemed like, when they were going through all the inactives at 9:30 in the morning over here. It was just, there's like this guy and this guy, and over in Chicago, everyone but Jay Cutler.
What does that say about the Broncos defense? They still couldn't, it was that close of a game, and they held out everybody. I mean, is it not that as good as we're saying?
Well, the defense only gives up 15 points, so it's not like it became a shootout. It was like, it's just, they're not getting a bunch of points on the other side, so.
Well, let's get on to the last of the early Sunday games here. The Indianapolis Colts take it on the Atlanta Falcons, and Matt Hasselbeck does it again. The Colts win. Goodness.
And I still don't know how he did it. Watching this game, I have no idea how Indianapolis won this game. Listen, both quarterbacks were terrible. I mean, you could not tell that they had any quarterback experience at all. There were 7 combined turnovers in this game. The 2 quarterbacks combined for 5 interceptions. Matt Ryan has a very costly interception. They were basically at the half-yard line after a great punt. He drops back and basically throws it right to a Colt defender who was sitting at like the 4-yard line, who instantly scores and ties the game up, which really, showed doom. I like that Matt Hasselbeck then got the ball and they went on a nice 4-minute drive to really run out the clock. They kicked the field goal with under a minute to go, to win the game. I like how he was really in dump-off mode. He knows his strengths and he knows his weaknesses. So, when the dump-off was there, Frank Gore is their leading receiver with 5 catches. Kobe Fleener's right there too. So, he was Mr. Checkoff in this game, and it worked out enough for them to get the win. But I wasn't that impressed. But Gary, he gets another win. They are 5-5. The reports are starting to come out that they expect Luck to possibly be ready to go come mid-December if everything kind of works out. But at this point, do you just stick with Hasselbeck for the rest of the season and let Luck get 100% healthy? Or do you still feel, if you're the Colts, that you could challenge the Patriots with Andrew Luck so you bring him back?
I think that you do what you can to, continue this season to be successful. But I look at it this way. If they, start losing games here and it looks like they're not going to win or even get close to the playoffs for some odd reason, they just fall off the wagon, that's when you don't even risk Luck. You don't do it at all. You let him get a whole, 100% healthy. But for me, if you think you're in the hunt and you think that you're right there and you do want to challenge teams, you're going to have a guy like Andrew Luck. Sean asked me last week, what's the difference between, Andrew Luck and Hasselbeck? And to me, Andrew Luck's the complete quarterback. Hasselbeck's good. He's a game manager, but, you got to talk about a stronger arm, a guy that makes really good decisions. He's not had the greatest year, but that's because of injury. So, me personally, if you're in the hunt, you go with Luck. If you're not, then, keep Luck on the sidelines.
On the Atlanta side of the ball, Julio Jones has another, Julio Jones day, 9 catches, 160 yards. Devontae Freeman looked awesome to start the game. He has 3 carries for 43 yards, and I believe it was all in their first drive, and he goes out with a concussion and is out for the game. Tevin Coleman doesn't look anywhere near as solid, and it really affected, I think, their game plan. So, Atlanta started out 5-0, Sean. They've lost 4 of their last 5, their last 3 all within a field goal or less. So do you think the Falcons can still make the playoffs, or do you think this downward spiral continues?
Oh Lord, I don't know. Matt Ryan better figure out how to play quarterback again, because that's an issue. Like, they're playing the Vikings next week at home, and nobody's scared. Who's scared to go to the Georgia Dome right now? Nobody. Like, they're packing in noise. Like, who the hell's gonna go over there? Like, the Vikings are coming off a big, a loss. They're gonna be mad. They've still got the number 1 rushing offense, the number 2 defense in the league. If Matt Ryan can't beat a Matt Hasselbeck Colts team, I worry about this Falcons team right now. And they still got to play some division games. Let's not kid around about that either.
Yeah, they still get the Panthers twice still. They go to Tampa Bay in 2 weeks, who's been red hot. So the schedule is not favorable for them, and on top of their downward spiral.
I'm going to say this right now. Like, Tampa Bay could wind up, I think, in the playoffs before the Falcons do. If they don't start winning some games, I seriously think Vikings are winning that game next week. And this time, they're 6-5 before they know what hit them.
Yeah, and it puts Tampa Bay and Seattle kind of right in that driver's seat for that last playoff spot. I kind of agree with you, but I want to hold out just a little bit, just because the last 3 games were all within a field goal. I don't think that the wheels have completely fallen off just yet, but the record sure has. That's for sure.
I know, but didn't we? But we've said this about. This is what happened to the Packers, though, right? Like, they were these close games, except for the Broncos game. Like, if you're wanting to be a champion, if you're wanting to be a playoff contender, you need to keep these games. You're keeping these games close, and you're winning them.
No, absolutely. And it's, listen, you could lose by 1 or you could lose by 30. It still all counts as 1 loss. So those 3 losses all count the same. I'm just saying, I think it's going to be a tough task to win against Minnesota, but I just don't think that they've become a terrible team. But those 3 losses are 3 losses. So you lose in Minnesota, and all of a sudden you're looking from outside of the playoff picture, trying to get back in, which is a scary thing late in the year.
Yes, it is, and another situation where we're talking about This Sunday night game, though, was terrific. This is what you want it to be. This is why they have the flex. This is a game that you want to watch on Sunday Night Football. The Arizona Cardinals and Cincinnati Bengals here.
So good.
They were stride for stride with each other. Just, Carson Palmer throws 2 interceptions at the beginning, pretty much, and then, Arizona's just so good they can overcome that. 4 touchdowns for Carson Palmer. It just absolutely blows me away the way Arizona is just able to on both sides of the ball. And that's what we're going to have when we get done with these games here. We're going to have a little discussion about the most complete team in the NFL. And, man, it's hard pressed for me to say that it's not Arizona, because not only can Carson Palmer throw interceptions, they go in and they cause Dalton problems. We saw it last week with Seattle too. They're able to keep them from scoring when need be. And then Carson Palmer just goes there on that last drive. Fitzgerald. I think it's J.J. Nelson, Fitzgerald. They pull in J.J. Nelson, who's only played I think one other game or something, and he gets big yards. I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing receiver there. Carson Palmer just gets to him. On the other end, it seemed like the Bengals were dropping passes, and they got a little bit unlucky sometimes with some calls, but I don't know. They just the last 2 games when they've had to face some tough you had the trap game there with Houston, and in this game where you thought they were going to be up for it, they were there, but Arizona was just better, I thought.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those games where you thought the team with the ball at the end was going to win the game, and that's exactly what happened. Arizona, with very little time on the clock, just masterful drive to get into field goal range, and then you have that weird call at the end where the Bengals tried to get them to false start to go into overtime. Well, no, to me, it's not, because if you don't get caught, you're going to overtime. So they were looking at it going, this is our only chance. Because, if they don't do it and they spike the ball, it's a little longer field goal than what it ended up being because of the penalty. But at that point, it's like, let's try.
It's them missing what would have been a 47-yard kick instead of a 33.
No, I totally agree. And listen, they got caught, and it's and it backfired. But listen, if they don't get caught, you're going to overtime. It's just, again, as a Jets fan who gave up on the Jets and started watching NASCAR, Jimmy Johnson's crew tried to do the same thing, and when they're changing tires, one of the crew members goes and bumps the fender with his backside and bends it in a little bit, try to get more aerodynamic, and he got caught. But if they don't get caught, his car is going to be faster. It's one of those things, you just try to bend the rule a little bit, try to make it to overtime, you get caught, all right, that's okay. I like the gamesmanship by Cincinnati, even though they got caught.
It is what it is. Do you think this is a case with the Bengals, kind of like the Packers? Or do they have to be worried about losing more games than just these 2? Or do you think they bounce back here? They lose another one. We're talking about the Steelers again being in contention for the division.
Yeah, I don't get worried. I don't get worried until they lose to St. Louis. Like you said, I think last week was a trap game, and here they just got beat by just as good of a team.
They're playing quality teams, and they're losing to them. That makes me a little concerned if I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and especially if I'm that coaching staff, because I'm thinking, okay, I plan on getting to the playoffs, but I can't beat the good teams. What's going on here?
They better not. They have the Rams at home, at Cleveland, which, Cleveland.
Yeah.
They play the Steelers still, and that's the thing. You lose another game, the Steelers are in contention again. But then they have the 49ers, Broncos. Who knows what's going to be happening with the Broncos at that point. And then the Ravens at the end, who basically are no one now. Lord, they couldn't have asked for an easier schedule at this point.
Yeah, but you can't look at the easy part. You can't look at it that way. You've got to look at these just straight up games. You got to look at them as hey, these guys are out for blood too, just like we are. So, confidence level may be a little bit lower for them right now, but I think that once they go into St. Louis, and if they can have a big game there, I think these guys are back on track for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it just that's going to be an issue. I mean, and then for the Cardinals, I mean, are we? How good are they, Billy? Are we talking about like they have now beaten the former two-time, they went to Super Bowl, they won the Super Bowl. This is the team we thought they were going to be last year, and now they've gone and beaten a team that was formerly undefeated. Now they get the 49ers coming up, and the Rams, and the Eagles even. I mean, they still got some rough games with the Vikings, Packers, and Seahawks there at the end. But, I mean, could we see them maybe not losing a game the rest of the way? I mean, how...
No, I'll say they'll lose at least one more. Probably still end up with a first-round bye. Before the season, I had them in the NFC Championship game, and I kind of see them in that same spot, maybe making the Super Bowl. But they, like you said, they're a complete team. They're one of the best in the league, and they are definitely one of the few Super Bowl contenders right now.
All right. Well, that ends us talking about Week 11, but I wanted to get into this because, I think it's important when you're talking about once you get to those playoffs, and I think that also helps you once you're, talking about getting into these close game situations and situational football and all that. We know the Patriots are banged up. We know the limit, we know, said the Packers are also got, some issues, and we saw what happened to the Vikings there. Some of these elite teams in the league are certainly having some issues, but when we're talking about complete teams that have everything that you look for, when it's time to get into crunch time, into the playoffs, into those games you need to win, who do you think is the most complete team? Is it the Panthers? Is it the Cardinals? Is it the Bengals? Who do you think?
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, for me, I look at, what, the offense, and I look at the running game, passing game. I mean, are they equal? What's the weaknesses? Is there one that, has gotten them by but not being complete? And right now, we know that Green Bay's offense isn't running like they like it to run, so they're not the complete team that I would say at this moment, even though they're really good. There's a couple teams that I'll point out right now. I think Arizona is one team you got to look at. They're very balanced, a very good team. I flip over and I'll say New England as well. They could be banged up all day, but they find players to play for them, even if they're guys that just come off the street. They play like they've been playing for 15 years. It's just their system. Their system works so well. It's a well-oiled machine. So I think those two teams right there have definitely proven that. Even Cincinnati to a point, I feel is very balanced. I think their defense is just kind of fallen a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. It's going to be difficult, but right now, I mean, I still think New England may be the most complete, even with injuries.
What are you thinking,
Yeah, I can't disagree with New England there, but I mean, to me, I think Arizona on paper is the most complete team. I mean, when you look at it, and Chris Johnson kind of had a resurgent year, and Andre Ellington is starting to get a bit healthier. Carson Palmer's playing great. I mean, they lose Michael Floyd on Sunday night and don't miss a beat. So they have a ton of weapons. I mean, more than we may even know. They may have even more practiced guys that can legit play wide receiver. Their defense is very strong. Don't count out Carolina either. Yes, I always talk about how they don't have Kelvin Benjamin, but they find pieces to work. They mix in their running backs in the passing game extremely well. That defense is very stout. So I think Carolina and Arizona and New England, to me, are the three most complete teams by far.
I mean, I think you still need to throw Seattle in there because that defense is one that you don't want to play if you get to that later part of the season, and Russell Wilson can turn it on if they protect him, and even if they don't, he's still running around and doing things. I mean, I think to me, Arizona has it on both sides as far as they have an elite receiving core. When Michael Floyd is healthy, they have 2 elite receivers. Larry Fitzgerald has had a complete resurgence. Carson Palmer is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league. Chris Johnson is running. You look at Carolina, and they have things. They have a great rushing attack with Newton and Stewart, but that receiving core is not one that I would depend on. Look, Cam Newton makes them better, obviously, but again, look, we need to look. Let me run this down for you. Obviously, you can only beat the people that are in front of you, okay? But they have beaten the Jaguars, the Texans, who now they're starting to have a resurgence, but at that point the Texans weren't good. Saints, Buccaneers, at that point the Bucs weren't good. They are better now. Seahawks, okay, they're the Seahawks. The Eagles, they beat the Colts, fine. They beat the Packers. They beat the Titans and Redskins, and they're going to play the Cowboys, who still are technically, they really haven't played there's a just handful of teams that they have played that I would consider those teams that you're watching out for. I still think it comes down to they're beating their opposition, obviously, but when you come into the playoffs and every team you're playing is going to be at that great level, you're going to get exposed at that point. And I wonder that about Cam Newton. If you can get to him, if you can make it hard for him, and you don't commit turnover, if you don't let that defense commit turnovers on you, I think you can take Carolina down.
I might have agreed with you if part of that schedule was not beating Seattle in Seattle. I think that was their true test, and they overcame that one too. So, listen, even great teams like Arizona and stuff, they're going to have stumbling blocks. I still don't see Carolina going 16-0. But to me, they have shown that they are a great team, schedule or not. Even these weaker teams that they've been playing, they're blowing them out. They're really hitting their stride in the last few weeks and getting that confidence going. And the more you see them, the more dangerous they're becoming. And that's, I think, what is the most scary part about it.
Fair enough. So, where do we put the rest? The Patriots, they have a lot of injuries right now. Where do you put them still? They still have the best coach and quarterback combo. Where do you put them there in that complete team ranking?
Like I said, I have them in the 3. I think it's Carolina, New England, Arizona, and then everyone else. You make a good case for Seattle, and obviously Cincinnati and Green Bay are great. Pittsburgh's pretty good when healthy. Denver is a complete team minus the quarterback right now. But other than that, it's really just, to me, those 3 teams.
Gary, any thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree with Randy. Cincinnati was a team I talked about a while ago, but I still think they've got a few things that don't quite make them as whole as those top 3 that Randy just mentioned.
I think Tom Brady is one of those. He's your running. As much as Cam Newton's going to do, Tom Brady's going to be your running MVP unless they lose. To me, I think Tom Brady covers up for a lot of things, and so does Bill Belichick. The way he does things, the way he schemes things, he makes. We talk about Cam Newton, but look what he did today with nothing, pretty much. So that shows you how good they are. How he can just still take the people that are there, and he can still win games with them. And it also helps to have that really good defense that he has. But still. But I think we kind of narrowed it down there. We each had our one that we wanted to pick. So I think this is where you can chime in. We do have an email, footballtofootballpod@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter @footballtofootball if you want to chime in on Twitter and let us know who you think is the most complete team and why. You can go to that WTM Network Facebook page, and you can post in there too. If you are more of a Facebook person, not so much Twitter, so there's ways to get a hold of us. You can even leave a YouTube comment there if you're listening through YouTube, and let us know who you agree with and who you think is the most complete team. So use that hashtag F2F when you're using it on Twitter. But yeah, so I think that pretty much we're going to take a pause on the NFL stuff and talk about some college football stuff. Randy, we had quite a few upsets and some crazy games.
Yeah, it's a pretty boring week in college football, if you ask me. Nothing really happened. Other than Michigan State and Ohio State took us back to 1910 in their game. Just complete crazy rain, and the wind was going nuts. And you have Connor Cook not playing, so Michigan State decided that all they were going to do was run the ball. And it worked out. That's all they had to do. They upset Ohio State 17-14. I think they threw the ball one time in the third quarter. Tyler O'Connor ends up 7 of 12 for 89 yards and a touchdown, and he is your winning quarterback. But it was just basically both teams wanted to make sure they weren't the ones to make the mistake. And even though Michigan State does muff a punt late in the game, they get the job done in the fourth quarter and pull off the big win. And now they're the team that has the chance to make it to the playoff. And Ohio State is now just hoping that, they then go in and make a big showing this week against Michigan and try to get back into it. But I just don't see that. But on top of that, some other games, you have Baylor giving Oklahoma State their first loss, which was pretty big. Oklahoma taking care of TCU in a pretty close one. They were dominating most of that game. They give up 16 points in the fourth quarter and hold on to win by 1. So we'll see what that does with the committee tomorrow. As I brought up last week, once again, the Pac-12 doesn't understand what it is to make one solid team. So you had UCLA going into Utah and beating number 13 Utah. And then, Sean, I'm sorry. I mean, they gave you a heart attack again, and it didn't quite work. But, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Arkansas loses 50-51 after that blocked 29-yard field goal. So I'll let you lament a little bit here.
I didn't get to watch the game, but it's just...
Well, then you saved yourself a heart attack because... From the bits that I got to watch, it was pretty crazy. It was a really fun game, but the ending not going the way you want. Next week, though, I mean, you thought this week was crazy. Next week's going to be even crazier. It's rivalry week for college football, so you're looking at Ohio State and Michigan. You're looking at Alabama going on the road against Auburn. Do we see a big upset there? Florida State at Florida, Notre Dame at Stanford, which has huge playoff implications, Oklahoma at Oklahoma State, which would have been even bigger if Oklahoma State doesn't lose last week, but now they have the chance to take away playoff hopes from Oklahoma and many, many more, Baylor, TCU, and just anywhere you're around, there's a big game rivalry-wise, whether it has playoff implications or not. So next week is like the big week for college football.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge week, and we'll be talking about it. I mean, we'll be talking. Actually, we probably should do it now because by the time we talk about it on Friday night, it'll be Saturday morning. Those games will be on. I forgot about that. So let me get out the. I know we're doing this on the fly here. Well, let me get out what we actually have as far as choices. So, Ohio State and Michigan. Where would you rank that on your confidence, Randy?
I haven't even looked at any of this kind of stuff. I know when we talk about it Friday night, it'll be right as games go. But I honestly have not looked at any college yet.
So
as far as
this is the 10 games that we have on here, just to tell everybody so that we have. I mean, pretty much this is when all these teams play each other. The USC's and UCLA's, the Auburns and Alabamas, the Florida State, Florida. It's weird that Texas A&M's not playing. They can't play each other. Texas A&M and Texas game, but Texas A&M playing LSU. That's a big game. Oklahoma State, that Randy already mentioned. And Notre Dame playing Stanford. That's huge. God, so many. Oh my God. We talked about it last week. We wanted to put all of them at 1. This is gonna be a week we want. Can we have like 10 ones? Like really?
Yeah,
it's
it's a big gamble this week. It really is.
I mean, oh my God, this is gonna be an insane week.
Yeah.
Insane. But yeah, so I mean, it's gonna be hard for us to make picks right now. So we get to that point in the podcast, depending on when you're listening. You always have the option. But it's always fun to listen to our picks, see how bad we were on our confidence, at least for when we get to it on Friday. But all right, so we need to get into Gary's fantasy football waiver wire pickups. Who you got for week 12, Gary?
All right, everybody. Well, looking at this, I got Terrence Williams from the Dallas Cowboys, a wide receiver. We saw him get a little bit of resurgence here this past week with Romo coming back. I think you could possibly see him get a little bit more action. If you need a wide receiver 3, you may look at Terrence Williams. He could even be better. Time will tell. But, why not sneak him onto your roster right now while no one knows? Talking about sneaking people onto rosters, let's talk about Javarius Allen, the running back from Baltimore. Without Forsett there, he's going to be the main guy. Can he do well? Who knows? But the question that you need to ask yourself is, do I really need a running back? And, hey, I've got some injuries. Maybe I can use this guy. So maybe you take a look at him. He could be a nice flex for some people. Talking about Baltimore, they also got another big injury at quarterback. Joe Flacco's out, so Matt Schaub comes in. Now, you heard me talk about him earlier. I do not have much confidence at all in this guy. I'm not looking for him to be a big guy, but I will say this. Some of you people play in 16-team leagues, you play in deep leagues, and you just need a quarterback who's actually on the field. Matt Schaub will be on the field, and he possibly could have some good games. So why don't you give yourself a shot, put him in, at least put him on your bench until you know what he can do. And let's go ahead and talk about someone else that I was very interested in seeing this week. And, of course, you saw him if you watched Monday Night Football. You saw James White once again be successful. This kid is going to be basically the new Dion Lewis. And I'm hoping I'm correct on this because the last time I said Brandon Bolden was that guy, I was completely wrong. This guy looks more closer to that, so we'll have to see. But definitely put him on your roster and see what happens. You're going to want him in PPR leagues. Actually, in standard leagues, he may be a lot lower on your totem pole. And let's move to the last guy. And the last guy I have on this list is Vernon Davis. Sean talked about him earlier. He had a lot of success with the Denver Broncos this week. This is his, I think second week playing, but he had a lot of success. So you may want to check him out, put him on your roster. He could be a very good player going forward. There you go, guys.
All right, let's go to our power rankings, which, we could probably guess the 5 teams that we have. We all have them on the list: New England, Carolina, Arizona, Cincinnati, Green Bay. The only difference is Randy has Carolina ahead of New England. He can't cheat and put 2 at number 1. I'm sorry, that's called cheating.
Well, it was because I was changing it and it goofed up, and now it's even worse.
You gotta love automatic.
There we go. I fixed it.
I thought you were trying to,
No, it's because I had New England at 1 with you guys, and listen, I've shown my love for Carolina the last few weeks. I'm showing it even more. I'm going to put them at 1 this week. It really is 1A and 1B with New England, but just the way they've looked the last few weeks, I'm going to slide them into the number 1 spot.
Yeah, I like the move. It shows confidence, Randy, and, you could be right. I mean, New England didn't exactly go game busters against the Buffalo, so.
Yeah, but that's a divisional opponent, and that's an opponent that always plays them tough. I think getting that win is huge.
Yeah, and this definitely wasn't, New England didn't look that great. It was just, I think they're very, very equal. So I just wanted to give some love to the team that I've been jumping on the bandwagon of as far as, Super Bowl predictions and best team in the league. So.
I know, and that's totally fair. I mean, look, Carolina whooped Washington. The defense looked extremely dominant and just doing what you wanted to do. New England had to face a different opponent. They won with pretty much the bottom of the barrel for Tom Brady, and then that's another big point in itself. So I mean, yeah, I agree with you. 1A, 1B, can't go wrong with either one.
Yeah, and the only difference I had this week was I put Green Bay at 5, took Minnesota out. So
I think we all did that because of Green Bay beating Minnesota and the way they beat Minnesota too.
Yep.
That proved they deserve to be back in the top 5. So now let's go to the Player of the Week, and again, in case this is the first week you've joined us, week 1 we had Carlos Hyde, week 2 Tom Brady, week 3 AJ Green, week 4 Devontae Freeman, week 5 Eli Manning, week 6 DeAndre Hopkins, week 7 Kirk Cousins, week 8 Drew Brees, week 9 Antonio Brown, and week 10 was Carson Palmer. Well, this week we have 2 5-touchdown quarterbacks. We had some dominant defenses. We had some, DeAndre Hopkins had him another big game. But it looks like it's coming down to the 2 quarterbacks that had the 5 touchdowns. Randy and I both picked Cam Newton. Gary, you picked Jameis Winston. Why Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston looked really good in this game, and Randy, kind of proposed the question of is he the rookie of the year after this kind of performance, and I think this game kind of put him in that echelon of at least considering him as rookie of the year. But I really felt like, hey, he worked hard for that. He worked hard for the 5 touchdowns. Cam Newton, he worked hard as well, but his team really set him up for success for those 5 touchdowns. So I kind of had to give it to Jameis Winston because of that. I felt like Winston had a wonderful game, and hey, he deserves the props.
Listen, and this one is one of the tougher ones we've had to do. I mean, some of the people we haven't even brought up here, Thomas Rawls goes over 200 yards, Doug Martin goes over 200 yards, Carson Palmer 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that big win. I almost went that route. But to me, it came down to Cam Newton and Jameis Winston. They both throw 5 touchdowns. They both throw exactly 246 yards passing. But Cam Newton added 16 rushing yards, so he got my nod.
Fair enough.
He got mine just because,
Wait a minute, Sean. He got it because he does the dab.
No, not because I could care less about the dab. But,
I saw you doing it on YouTube. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was doing. But no, I think just Cam Newton. He's been performing great all year. I think I give it to him for consistency, honestly.
And I think if Cam Newton wins our MVP of this year, I've got to see Sean do that dab dance on YouTube.
All right. But, it can be talked about, I guess. So
how about if Carolina beats your Cowboys? Don't you guys play soon?
We play Thanksgiving.
There you go. So if that happens, you both have to do dap.
Right,
what does Randy have to put up? Randy has to do it if the Cowboys win, right?
Yeah. Okay.
What did the Cowboys do? What's a cowboy move?
I
have to
what was
punch my
Dez's
girlfriend?
dance this
She would
last week,
kill me.
Sean? He can do Dez's dance.
Yeah.
Where's Dez's dance?
You can go watch it in the. You'd have to watch the actual full game.
Watch him throw the penalty.
I would rather do that than the Greg Hardy because I would lose that battle with my girlfriend.
Oh God. I don't want to know about any of that. Sorry.
Yeah.
But no, I will do that. If Dallas wins, I will do whatever that Dez Bryant dance is. He hasn't done it very often because of how wonderful that season's been going for you guys.
But the Dez thing is not really a dance. It's the whole throwing up the X or whatever.
No, watch it. Watch the game on Sunday when he did with Terrence Williams.
Oh, okay.
All right. I'll make that bet.
All right. Well, speaking of, we do have to talk about these Thanksgiving games because they're going to be happening. They're going to be done by the time we talk about the actual games on Friday. And coming up first is the Detroit Lions at home at the 12:30 game against those Philadelphia Eagles. Mark Sanchez playing against Matt Stafford. Again, Matt Stafford looked pretty good against a decent defense in the Raiders. He still got sacked a bunch. Randy told us all about what happened with the Eagles defense. What are you guys expecting here? Randy, what do you think?
I see a lot more turmoil for Philadelphia. You don't have enough time to really get that settled before this game. And again, Detroit is used to these Thanksgiving games. I mean, this is obviously one of the big traditions in the NFL. So give me Detroit here. I think they win and the Eagles continue to implode.
Well, Gary, I mean, we know what, the Detroit Lions, running game they kind of stepped it up this week, but they haven't been all that, reliable. And then we've seen that DeMarco Murray had a decent game. Of course, no Ryan Matthews for that game to kind of bounce off of. Do you think over under 100 yards for DeMarco Murray?
You know what? Overall, or just rushing? Because I think in the receiving game, you'll definitely, if it's just rushing alone, I'm not sold right away that he's going to get over 100 yards. And not that he can't get close. I just feel like Sanchez is going to have to put this game on his back. Because I really feel like, like Randy said, they've gone through turmoil. I think they're going to still, really depend on Sanchez to get him through this game. So I'll go under.
All right, fair enough. Well, who do you have winning here?
I've got Detroit as well. I think this is a home game, but not only that, there's just been so many distractions in Philadelphia. They're going the back and forth and trying to get a good game plan going in this short of time. It's going to be tough.
All right. Well, Gary, we got the Cowboys in the 4:30 slot. They have to go against the undefeated Carolina Panthers coming into town, where the Cowboys have only won once, and that was against the Giants when Romo was still playing. Romo, second game back, first game at home since returning on short rest. What are we... a lot of people were talking about this game here. I think they even have it even on the betting line right now. Should it really be that close? Greg Hardy against his old team.
Yeah, I don't know that it should be that close. I really don't. Carolina is just, they're rolling, they're hot. I mean, it just completely surprises me that that's even a thing. To be honest with you, I mean, Dallas is 3-7. I mean, that you're talking about 10-0. But here it is. I think they're giving Dallas a lot of credit for being at home. They're used to the Thanksgiving Day games, kind of like you talked about earlier. So, I mean, maybe they got that going for them. They get Tony Romo back, but I don't know about that. What I'm looking forward to seeing in this game is how Dallas can hold up against Carolina's defense. Are they going to let Carolina's defense determine what they're going to do? That's the big key here. And of course, when you flip the coin, how is Carolina going to deal with not only, Greg Hardy, but a few of these other pass rushers? I mean, they haven't had a lot of success, but I know Greg Hardy's going to be super pumped for this game. I think he's going to want it more than anything. So it's going to be a tough game. It really is. And I don't know exactly how it could go because it's either going to be a blowout or a really close game coming down to the fourth quarter. But my head says Carolina's going to win this game. But you know what? Screw it. I don't really want to do the dab dance. I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
I don't think we want to. I mean, hey, you know what? We could be the next YouTube sensations.
Yeah.
I'm doing you guys a favor with this bet.
Right. Well, Randy, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking that Gary needs to pawn off a lot of stuff and get tickets for him and his kid to be near one of the end zones. So when Cam Newton scores his fourth touchdown, he might get one of those footballs.
Yeah. Hey, as long as he signs it, I can sell it on eBay, right, for Christmas.
No, I honestly, listen, like Sean, you said, it is Tony Romo off short rest, second game back. So you have to be a little concerned there. And Carolina is just rolling so well right now. I do have that thing about home team on Thursday night. I just don't think this is an equal matchup. So I still think Carolina gets the job done against Dallas.
This is a difficult one because I do think that the record isn't very. It doesn't tell you a lot of what the Cowboys are when Tony Romo is there. I mean, they are a control the ball offense. Now, here's the thing. Carolina's defense, they go right after controlling the run, and we've seen That's the thing. We haven't really seen what happens to Tony Romo when he has to completely just throw the ball all the time and he's not relying on McFadden or Turbin or whoever's going to be running the ball for the Cowboys to have to go out there and probably have to throw it a lot and actually get through this Panthers defense. And this Panthers defense is, they're going to be coming at Romo. He thought the Dolphins were coming. Panthers are going to be coming, and that's going to be rough on that Cowboys offensive line that hasn't been that great all season. It just, this is so hard for me. I think this is one of those times I go with my heart. I don't want to, but it being basically the Cowboys have to win every game right now. It's at home. You don't want to disappoint. It's on Thanksgiving. Like Gary and I have this thing of, if you don't lose one game all year, Thanksgiving, you don't want to lose that game. I'm going to say Cowboys win and end the undefeated streak.
I think if the Cowboys win, I think there's a player that everybody needs to look at, and it's Trey Williams from, we just saw him in Washington. He's their Lance Dunbar, and we saw how successful they were with Lance Dunbar.
So. We didn't even see him in this game against the Dolphins.
Not at all.
You think they were holding him out for...
I don't think they're holding him out for that. I think that they know that they've got to find a way to win this game, and he's the X factor.
All right, fair enough. I mean, we definitely could even see, sort of what we've seen in the Packers and the Colts games, where Romo is definitely good enough to, if the Cowboys get down, he can lead them on a comeback. And we've seen what happens with the Panthers when the defense gets tired. So that's another possibility there. But, speaking of... getting tired. Who knows if you're going to be tired, with all that turkey and stuff that you're stuffing in your mouth by the time we get to the 8:30 game between the Packers and Bears. The oldest rivalry in the NFL happening one more time on Thanksgiving night on NBC. How do you see this going?
This is going to be an interesting game. Obviously, you're going to have all the hoopla with them retiring Brett Favre's number and all of that before the game. But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be really entertaining, possibly the most entertaining of, the Thanksgiving games, just because I do believe Alshon Jeffrey plays. I do believe Matt Forte plays. So I think Chicago gets rolling a little bit more. Green Bay defense still is not really up to what we expected them to be. But on the other side, the offense is starting to click a little bit better. Eddie Lacy was looking better, which allows Aaron Rodgers to look a little bit better. So I think, honestly, I see both teams possibly both scoring over 30 points. I think it could be one of those crazy shootout kind of games, but it's Aaron Rodgers versus Jay Cutler at that point, and of course you have to go with Aaron Rodgers. So I would go with Green Bay in a high-scoring shootout.
I got to go Green Bay on this game. I really feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to have a little bit more success. I think that, the Chicago's defense is going to be a little tough on them, but I don't think they're going to be tough enough. Jay Cutler, his crew, they're going to go against this Packers offense that's just really made Bridgewater suffer. I think they're going to try to make Cutler's life a little bit difficult too, and I think that will come into fruition. I do agree with Randy, though. Those two guys that he just mentioned, Jeffrey and, of course, Forte, will be a big key factor, but I feel like Green Bay is going to win this, at least by 2 possessions.
I think Green Bay is going to relish in wanting to end the Bears season pretty much right there at home. And that will be just a glorious moment there for it's going to be. I think I totally agree with Randy. It's going to be a fun game to watch. I may do the Rabble for that game or not. I have it scheduled, but not sure what's going to happen if I want to do it or not. But it should be something to watch. And I think the Packers are going to win that game for sure. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this show here. For the NFL Week 11 recap and beginning of Week 12 preview edition. Hopefully everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Go enjoy it with your families or whatever it is you're going to be doing, whether you're going to be working or just, being there and enjoying a day off. If that's how you decide to spend it, hopefully, the two of you guys have a good night. What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? Gary?
I'll be at my in-laws' house, and so we'll be celebrating over there. So it'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
Randy, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I'm getting together with some friends and playing some football, and then going to the girlfriends' families and having some food there, and maybe meet up with some of my family after and watch a bunch of football, just like Gary, and just kind of relaxing and enjoying good food and not having to work.
Yeah.
Well, I unfortunately have to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then get off, and I'll probably just, I don't know, go find somewhere that has some kind of Thanksgiving food and eat that and watch some games and go to sleep probably. And then Friday I'll get to meet my sister's new boyfriend. So on Friday, so that's something I guess. Yeah, so that'll be it. If you've enjoyed what you heard here, you can subscribe to us on iTunes. Write a review if you'd like. 5 stars are preferable, but if you hated it, put that 1 star on there, whatever. Check us out YouTube as well as WTM Network. That has all the podcasts that we do. Whether it's the wrestling podcast or the co-op multi-podcast, which that will be happening tomorrow night. Wrestling podcast will be on Wednesday night. So they'll be there one after another. You will get the newest episode of them. And again, we'll be back on Friday night talking about these Thursday night Thanksgiving games and, of course, previewing the rest of Week 12. And, Randy, tell them about your podcast.
Yeah, if you like old school video games and two nerds arguing over them, definitely check out backlogbusting.com, where a buddy of mine, Wes, and I discuss a couple video games every 2 weeks. We're actually just about to record our new one that will be out tomorrow, where we will be talking about Twisted Metal, the new one that the guys that made God of War made. I will be discussing the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor game that came out just last year, and Wes will be talking about a little Japanese RPG that came out for the original PlayStation called Suikoden, which, Sean, in 2 weeks, you have to join us and talk about the sequel to that game. So we're excited to have our first guest talk about a game. We had you on for the E3 special, but this will be the first time we have a guest recapper.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Suikoden 2, long game. So
yes.
I've tried to start it, and ooh, God. But yeah. So, until Friday, everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the games. Hopefully they're all good, and we'll see you then.
And practice your dapping.
Oh, that's how it is.
We'll see.
Already telling us that we're going to be practicing the dapping. Well, you need to be practicing that dapping too, Randy. You never know. Later!